Boom. Good day, folks. Good afternoon. I guess we are in the afternoon hour. It's nice to join you again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Daniel Whitelock, owner operator of Ozark MMJ Cards. I run the MMJ Cards, Ozark MMJ Cards channel here. Welcome. Thank you for joining me again on YouTube, folks. So, listen, I'd just like to jump right into it. Today, we're going to be talking about mastering the mental health balancing act with cannabis. Okay, this subject comes up often, very, very often in my clinic here where I certify people for having qualifying conditions for their medical marijuana card. This aspect of just getting a better mental health balance and incorporating cannabis, this comes up quite a bit. All right. And I'll tell you why. This is a very valid concern. For example, a patient will come in with, let's say, a mental health complaint. It could be one of many, either PTSD, um, chronic anxiety, insomnia, maybe episodic depression, this one entity that's called dysthymia, which is basically a milder version of major depression, but it's there more consistently. It's basically just having the blues almost every day, but not full blown depression. So any of these entities might exist, or combination of entities might exist in a patient, and their goal is to get better control, more consistency of their mood on a day-to-day basis, and they want to use cannabis in those efforts. But the question then comes up, okay, doctor, I want to use cannabis. I've used cannabis before. I know how it makes me feel. I want to feel better, and I want to do more with my day happy as opposed to unhappy. But I don't want to be bound by the lethargy that can come with cannabis. They might say, I tried cannabis once or twice before, but all I did was I ended up on the couch and I was stoned, and all I was doing was uh, I ordered some fried chicken. I woke up 3 hours later. So instead of having a happy day, all I did, I tried to get my mood better, and I did get my mood better with weed, but I ended up stoned on the couch, and all this time passed. So instead of me happily enjoying my life, I was happily taking a nap. So, and that's not what the patient might have intended to do. So the question becomes, how do I get from this state of my more frequent self, which might be anxious, depressed, what have you? How do I elevate that state using cannabis, which normally makes people feel happy and good? But how do I hit that spot where I can feel better, but not get so overwhelmed that I miss that opportunity for happiness, and it's replaced with just plain kind of getting high and not being able to enjoy the time. So here's what I'd say onto that. All right. Firstly, not surprising because I go over this a whole lot. The trick first is going to land in the dosing. All right, the amount of the dosing and the setting in which you decide to dose. Okay, so I'll speak on that. Just as a side note, guys, feel free to check out Ozark MMJ Cards, where we have our balanced dosing guide. We also have an edibles dosing guide that goes over different milligram dosings of cannabis. For example, a microdose is a dose that falls under the range of 2.5 milligrams or less of cannabis. And, macro dosing involves doses that are higher than 10 milligrams, going into the 50, 100 milligram sort of range. All right. So we'll talk on the exact dosing amounts later, but I just wanted to bring up the idea of smaller dosing if we're going to be doing something like trying to adjust our mood and get ourselves to a better mood state without being overwhelmed by psychoactivity. The instructive thing to do here in this particular case is to try with a smaller dose. Okay. If you start with a smaller dose, it's always going to be the kind of thing that you'll be able to manage a lot easier in the event that you try a strain that doesn't necessarily fit well with you. Okay. Another reason why I like to lean into the smaller dose aspect of things is because it brings your body into balance a lot more gradually. And when your body is brought into hormonal balance gradually, it's able to come to equilibrium in a much more natural physiologic way. All right. So when I say that, what that means for your body is, if you're unhappy, say you might have a serotonin, that's the happy hormone. You might have a serotonin deficit. Okay. And when you dose cannabis just in normal amounts, regular, moderate, smaller amounts, what happens is the endocannabinoid system will be activated to bring that serotonin level back up and bring it to its balance point that's physiologic. Okay. What would happen if you took a larger dose is that the serotonin level might rise too high past its normal physiologic balance point. At that point, the body will, and you'll feel super high, super happy at that point. Okay. You're not going to feel bad at that point. But what happens is, when your body detects that that level of that hormone is too high, what it will do is it will retract the receptors for serotonin, and that extra amount of serotonin over time won't come to an effect, and your body will have to rebalance itself back to your serotonin's normal set point. And in doing so, the receptors might still not be on the outside of the cell. So as your body is adjusting the serotonin level down, it's doing so with less receptors to catch it. So the net effect would have you back down lower than what you had intended. Okay. So all of this stems from taking too much cannabis in one sitting. What'll happen is, once your hormones overshoot, when your body goes to correct itself, it will correct itself by undershooting. So you'll actually be going in the opposite direction of what you're heading for, what you're aiming to do, if you dose the cannabis too high. That's the reason for dosing medically versus dosing recreationally. We have a direction that we're looking to go, and we're looking for a certain equilibrium level that fits with the body's natural physiology. Okay, that's why we call it dosing cannabis medically. I like to set up that distinction so people can understand, when we do something recreationally, be it cannabis or anything else, we're not trying to do things with an end set point in mind, a medical set point, where we're looking to address a symptom medically. All right. When we're doing things recreationally, we're doing things, we get as high as we want to get. We're not acting with a limit in mind. We're not acting with a fine, directed goal, a point in mind. So the amount is crucial. Okay. So that's one aspect. Another aspect that I really wanted to bring up for you folks is the setting in which that we dose. Okay. If there's an imbalance in our mental health status, all right, be it anxiety, depression, bipolar, also formerly known as manic depression, what have you, if we're experiencing an imbalance, the setting in which we take our cannabis products is going to have an impact on how we bring ourselves back into balance. For example, if someone is having an anxious day, medicating while you're on the run and doing things that might be anxiety inducing, that's not going to bring you back to that set point that you're looking for, because your body is still in motion and still moving fast. Okay, you haven't given your body the type of setting where it can really acknowledge what's going on biochemically, if your body is heading towards a new biochemical set point. What that means in layman's terms, guys, I think I might have gotten a little bit too technical with that statement. What that means is, if you're looking to calm yourself down, all right, if you're having an anxious time and you don't put yourself in a calm setting, the chance for you dosing cannabis more than what you should dose it is higher. So you have a higher chance of misdosing too much cannabis if you do it in a setting that is not a calm setting. All right. So I want that to just really land on people, and just so people can understand that the 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 environment in which you use it is going to have an impact on how you use it. So if you set yourself up in a relaxed environment before you even dose, you're more likely to be more mindful about the types of effects that the cannabis is having on you, and you'll be able to acknowledge these effects more consciously versus if you're on the go, you're sort of moving, you're in between doing things, and you grab a vaporizer pen and you're just sort of trying to hit it and force yourself back into a mental state. Use cannabis to force yourself back into a mental state that makes you feel better. And I don't think this is the best. I don't think this is the best tactic to achieve that mental health change. So do keep that in mind, folks, when you're dosing. It's always a good idea to put yourself in an environment where you can really let the focus be on yourself. Okay? Let me say that again. Let the focus be on yourself. You're dosing yourself cannabis. Okay? So the whole reason that you're dosing yourself cannabis is so that you can achieve a mental state that makes you feel good and makes you feel happy. All right? And you can't achieve this sort of thing by mere brute force. All right? I know in today's fast moving times, we try and move quick and force things to happen the way we want them to. Unfortunately, for a biochemical process like mood, our happiness, our anxiety level, our level of depression, those sorts of things, these are not things that we can control by force. All right. Because it's a biochemical process that happens in our body. Our bodies are going to react to our situations a certain way. And if we're using cannabis in a type of run and go, hustle, bustle type situation, we're more likely to use it less mindfully, and we're more likely to use more product than what might be useful for our bodies. So I want to keep that aspect, the setting in which you use your products is really, really important. Also, from a safety aspect, better to dose these sorts of things at home so you can at least know your level of coordination before you go out and do something like, for example, driving a car, which can be dangerous if you've dosed too much or it's too soon after you've dosed cannabis products. Cannabis products to some degree do reduce reaction time and visuospatial acuity. All right, folks. So better to dose your cannabis products in a safe, relaxed environment. All right. Another point that I did want to bring up is, folks, if everything is going well, and you're not experiencing any sort of mental health distress and everything is going fine, it's okay to just go ahead and not dose at that time. Okay, it's perfectly fine. The action of just reflexively dosing medical marijuana just because you've been in the habit for it and you want to get ahead of the ball before your mood drops and you want to get yourself happy. I can see the intent behind that. And I don't think there would be huge harm as long as you microdosed it. But I do want to just lend some awareness to prophylactically dosing cannabis in anticipation of anxiety is not the best way, or in anticipation of mental health. I'll call it unhappiness. It's not the best way to do that because I think over time people will come into the habit of just dosing cannabis reflexively and not mindfully. And I think over time that can lend towards tolerance. And we don't want to go in that direction. If we head in the direction of tolerance and we find that we need to use escalating cannabis doses, we know that we've been dosing too much in the recent past. All right. So keep the amount that we're dosing. We want to keep that moderate. And if we find that the amount that we're dosing is gradually increasing, an escalating dose, then we know that it's time to cut back on either the amount that we're dosing per sitting or the frequency in which we're dosing. All right. And the reason why I bring this up, folks, is because when folks successfully dose their cannabis in a moderate fashion, they find that over time their mood is more balanced, and they're able to achieve more happy time with their days. And I think that's really the end goal. I really, really want to lean into that, because if my patients are happy, I'm happy. That's the most really important thing from physician standpoint. I want my patients to express a whole lot of satisfaction with the time of their lives. That's really all we have. So when I hear that a patient is doing things correctly and just lending their endocannabinoid system support, these patients do very well. And they tell me that, doc, my life is going good. It's not perfect. Still have to pay taxes. There's always something that might be going on, but their ability to handle the changes that come is just much better once they learn the proper way, the proper amount to dose cannabis, and the proper situation in which to dose it. All right, how to set themselves up in the right kind of location and time, so that they can really enjoy themselves. I think the action of trying to hurry and do something like dose cannabis, I don't think it works well, because I don't think we're thinking our best and making the best decisions. All right, so amount and setting comes into play. Strain choice also comes into play. I know I've spoken at length to some degree regarding indica and sativa. That indicas, for the most part, tend to be more relaxing, introspective, sedating, that sort of thing. The sativas tend to be more mentally invigorating, activating, quite lucid, moving, sort of kinetic type vibe. So I think understanding the differences between those two and taking that into account when we're choosing a strain, I think that's also a powerful tactic. Now, on the subject of indica and sativa, I know that this comes up a whole lot, where the naming of a strain of indica versus sativa, that's really coming into question a whole lot more. And I respect that. All right. But still, nonetheless, the strains that are purported to have indica type effects, those are the ones that are more fitting to calming someone down. The strains that are geared towards more sativa type effects, those are strains that are more fitting to getting someone up and energized and invigorated, and sort of lower the activation energy to get them moving. Okay, so you can see how this strain choice kind of works a little bit diametrically opposite to one another. So the strain choice does come into play, definitely. But those are the main things that I wanted to touch on today, folks, just regarding how to really get the most of our mental health balance with cannabis, because there's no reason for cannabis to act as an impediment to people spending a lot of their days happy versus unhappy. Everyone, in my opinion, has the right to enjoy their life happily on their terms. And I think cannabis affords a really, really great golden, non-toxic, non-addicting avenue to be able to achieve that. That's the most that I can hope for all of my viewers out there, my patients, my friends, my family. Happiness is really the most golden thing. And if we can spend more of our life like that, we can always look back and feel better about ourselves. Okay. So cool. That was it for today, guys. Mental health balance. It's a real important thing. I hope you guys got something out of this video. Please feel free to share my videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and be kind to yourself, folks. Be kind to your neighbors. Until we speak again, nothing but love, folks. Dr. Dan out. Bye.